Okay, and we're live. Wow. Hello, everybody. This is Paul Politico. Welcome, everybody. Just gonna put on some music in the background real quick, so that's why I have a little tab open right here. We've got Harris Haller's Stream Beats. They're free to use. Use them for your streams to have some music in the background without fear of copyright. But there's a lot of stuff to go over today. A lot of stuff to go over today. Lots of stuff has happened. A lot of stuff has happened over the past few days. Once again, this is Paul Politico's Pressroom. This is the Twitch stream where we go over things to do with the election and politics and everything alike. Just different things. There's a lot of stuff that happened in both political world, the tech world today. Lots of cool things that I want to at least touch over briefly. So first, we want to take a look at the poll results. I'm gonna mute that for me so that I don't hear this. I'm gonna mute that real quick. Okay, it's not monitoring, but I hear it. I don't want to hear it, and I'm frozen. Oh, but it's okay. You can still see me. It's all right. Hi, everybody. But first, we're going to take a look at the different results. The results that have been going on as of right now. So right now, if we take a look at our charts, this is where the vote stands. The vote stands at 290 for Vice President. President-elect Joe Biden. I'm going to refer to Joe Biden as the President-elect from now on because these results have been trending very solid for around more than a few days now, since Election Day. If you haven't seen the Election Day stream with Wang Bang and I, 720 minutes, I'll send a link in chat just a little bit later on a commercial break so you can save it and watch it. But as of right now, this is where the vote stands. This is where the votes that have been counted currently stand. Currently hold 290 estimated votes for Joe Biden and 214 for incumbent Donald Trump. So right now, Joe Biden has become president-elect with the amount of electoral college votes that he has, especially in key states Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. With those votes sealed, he has a vote. He has the electoral college ready to vote for him. Anyways, moving forward, we can take a look at the popular vote. Popular vote right here, 50.8% popular vote, largest voter turnout in the United States history. Largest voter turnout compared to President Trump's, who has the second largest vote turnout in our history of the United States, and that just moved over here, but we don't want to move over here. So we have 50.8 to 47.5. Look how many people voted. That's about a 67% turnout. So this is no ordinary election. This election was exacerbated by the coronavirus pandemic. So, sorry about that. Moving on forward, I want to go over a few things today. In terms of politics. Lots of stuff has happened lately. You see Joe Biden here, President Trump there. You can take a look at the swing states. You can take a look at the numbers. As of right now, these are the numbers that we have leading. We have Joe Biden leading in Florida. We have him leading in Arizona and in Michigan. These are all battleground states. That's just how the numbers are, and it doesn't look like those numbers are going to change if we think about the lawsuits that are going on by the Republican Party. Some of those lawsuits have gone nowhere, and we have lots to talk about in terms of lawsuits, in terms of other matters with the Affordable Care Act. So we're going to talk about that and see try to figure out why the justices are going to vote the way they will. Right now, if we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about the Affordable Care Act and what's going on there. Right now, as you can see, we'll get a little closer. Look at these numbers. These numbers are a lot closer than they may first appear. Ugh, moved over here. I don't want that. As you can see, these numbers are very, not all over the place, very close. So we're gonna look at charts. We're gonna get some charts out. and we're going to go over a few things that I want to go over. First, I want to go over Joe Biden's victory speech. I want to go over his victory speech first, so we can analyze that and figure out what he's trying to say. So we're going to do that real quick. This is a little bit behind, so hopefully we can have a little bit of something. So we'll watch that together. If you haven't watched it already, we'll go over that, and it'll be great. So pull out not the charts. We're gonna pull out this. Actually, scratch that. I want to go over his. I want to talk about him over the Affordable Care Act. Let's talk about the Affordable Care Act first. So we're switching gears, not talking about the election because the election's already a done deal. At this point, there isn't likely to be any sort of lawsuits coming. So we're going to write some stuff down real quick. Right now I have it Biden versus Trump in terms of election pledges. And I say that because lots of stuff going on here. So what I'm about to write, we're going to talk about Democratic nominee Joe Biden. Oh, he's not red. We separate by color on this channel. We separate by color, not in terms of just in terms of party. So Joe Biden's Democrat. He is a proud Democrat, and we're going to call him by party. So we'll go with Biden first. Yeah, good. Okay. All right. So we're talking about Biden. But what about him? We're going to talk about his Affordable Care Act. So first, we're going to talk about his plans to expand. Well, that was a really bad P. Jesus. I'm new to this. You'll have to pardon me for how I react to writing this. Expanding. And Social Security. We'll talk about Social Security in a minute, but I want to go over the Affordable Care Act. Because there was some hearings by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court gonna make them gold. Because they are the law of the land, the Supreme Court. So the ACDA, we've got hearings from the Supreme Court. We have a 6-3, a 6-3, a majority. If you know what these colors means, red's conservative, red is Grand Old Party, and 3 is the democratically appointed judges. So we're going to talk about Joe Biden's defense of the Affordable Care Act. We're going to watch it together, and then we're going to analyze it as I take notes, and we have some things to talk about. Alright, so we're going to do that real quick. I'm going to make it in blue, because this happened today. All this happened today, so I want to go over that real quick. So hearings. Well, specifically the Supreme Court heard arguments by 18 states about, we're gonna lock the screen real quick, about whether the federal mandate is constitutional. I'm gonna move this keyboard. I don't need this right now. Yeah, here we go. 18 states about whether the mandate is constitutional. And if not, should the law bye-bye, go home to mommy. This is that they're trying to argue here. We have the Republican side, which are the 18 southern states. They're arguing as to whether this law is constitutional or not. So we'll go over Joe Biden's defense. He had a defense of the Affordable Care Act today, so I want to take a look at that. JB defense. We're going to look at his conference in just a second, and we're going to watch it together because I haven't watched it yet. So we're going to do that real quick. We're gonna do that real quick. You'll have the music turned off, and we're gonna hear. You're gonna hear Kamala Harris first. So we're gonna hear from Harris first, and then you're gonna transition to Biden, and then we're going to continue forth. So without further ado, this is what happened earlier today, before the hearings on the Affordable Care Act. This suit was brought in by Texas, I believe. Texas brought the suit all the way up to the Supreme Court as to whether the federal mandate for the Affordable Care Act was constitutional. So we're going to listen to Joe Biden's defense of the Affordable Care Act. So we're going to do that real quick, because it's fun. This is fun. This is fun times in the news. So we're going to hear that real quick. Here we go. Once again, this is Politico, and we will be here and back when... there's no captions? Oh, come on. There's got to be captions. So there's not going to be captions. I apologize, everybody. So, yeah, that's a shame. That's a real shame. There's not captions. Come on now. But whatever. We don't have captions. This is what we got. Apologies. But if you haven't watched this already, come back in about... we're going to... Hopefully it won't take forever. We're not going to listen to Joe Biden's questions afterward, because they're about President Trump wanting to concede. But right now we're going to talk about the Supreme Court case surrounding the Affordable Care Act. So here we are. This is Paul Politico, and you're watching his press room as we listen to Joe Biden. I want to hear this too. Right there is Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Kamala Harris is about to speak.
Good afternoon. Today, the Supreme Court heard arguments in a case that could strike
I can't
down
turn
the
this up
Affordable Care
very
Act
long, any
in
louder.
its entirety.
So,
if the Supreme
without
Court
further ado,
agrees with the
turn up your
opponents of the
speakers.
act, their decision could take health care away from 20 million Americans. It could take away protections from more than 100 million people with pre-existing conditions in our country, and hurt the millions of Americans who have come to rely on the Affordable Care Act. Getting rid of the Affordable Care Act will take us backward to a time when people could charge a woman more for her health care than they could charge a man, simply because she's a woman. To a time when pregnancy could be considered a pre-existing condition. It will take away free birth control and contraceptive coverage for women. This is all happening at a moment when our country is suffering through a pandemic that has claimed more than 238,000 lives. And we all know that if the Affordable Care Act is struck down, communities of color would be hit particularly hard. Black, Asian, Hispanic, and Native American, because they are at a greater risk of pre-existing conditions, from asthma to diabetes to lupus. And they are also 3 times as likely to contract COVID-19 and twice as likely to die as others. Now, I know we all know that we just had an election in America, an election where healthcare was very much on the ballot. Our country had a clear choice in this election. Each and every vote for Joe Biden was a statement that healthcare in America should be a right and not a privilege. Each and every vote for Joe Biden was a vote to protect and expand the Affordable Care Act, not to tear it away in the midst of a global pandemic. And Joe Biden won the election decisively, with more votes than have ever been cast in American history. It amounts to 75 million voices and counting, calling on the Supreme Court to see this case for what it is, a blatant attempt to overturn the will of the people. And the President-elect and I cannot let that happen. And now it is my honor to introduce President-elect Joe Biden.
Thank you, Kamala. Good afternoon, everyone. This morning, as was stated, the United States Supreme Court heard oral arguments on the case of grave importance to the American people. This case represents the latest attempt by the far-right ideologues to do what they've been repeatedly failed to do for a long time. In the courts, in the Congress, in the court of public opinion, over the last decade, to eliminate the entirety of the Affordable Care Act. Twice already, the Supreme Court has upheld the landmark law, in 2012 and again in 2015. And the Congress, expressing the popular will of the American people on a bipartisan basis, has rejected numerous attempts, numerous efforts by President Trump to erase the law as well. Now, in the middle of a deadly pandemic that has infected more than 10 million Americans, nearly 1 in every 32 Americans, often with devastating consequences to their health, these ideologues are once again trying to strip health coverage away from the American people. The goal of the outgoing administration is clear from the brief they filed in the Supreme Court. It asserts, and I quote, "The entire ACA thus must fall," end of quote. Now, I'm not naive about the fact that health care is an issue that has divided Americans in the past. But the truth is, the American people are more united on this issue today than they are divided. Recently, as last month, a leading survey found that American people want to keep the Affordable Care Act in place by an overwhelming margin of 58% to 36%. 79% of the American people, including 9 out of 10 Democrats, 8 out of 10 independents, and 2/3 of Republicans, want to keep the ACA protections for people with pre-existing conditions, which would be eliminated if this lawsuit were to succeed. This doesn't need to be a partisan issue. It's a human issue. It affects every single American family. We can't subvert the growing consensus of the American people based on an argument put forward in the briefs seeking to invalidate the law that even many conservative legal scholars, including in the National Review, consider to be, quote, ridiculous. Let's be absolutely clear about what's at stake. The consequences of the Trump administration's argument are not academic or an abstraction. For many Americans, they are a matter of life and death in a literal sense. This argument will determine whether health care coverage of more than 20 million Americans who acquired under the Affordable Care Act will be ripped away in the middle of the nation's worst pandemic in a century. Over 100 million people, as the Vice President-elect pointed out, over 100 million people with pre-existing conditions like asthma, diabetes, cancer, could once again be denied coverage, whether complications from COVID-19 like lung scarring and heart damage will be the next flood of pre-existing conditions that can be used as an excuse to jack up premiums or deny coverage altogether. For millions of survivors who have struggled, won, and fought the coronavirus, fought against the loss of their life. This argument is going to determine whether women, as is pointed out, will once again be charged higher premiums just because they're women, or seniors will see their prescription drug costs go up. And like kids who, whether or not they can stay on their parents' plans till age 26, whether annual lifetime benefits will be reimposed. So someone could walk in and say, die in peace, you've run out of your coverage. This isn't hyperbole, it's real as it gets. When a family is faced with the awful news of a child's diagnosis with leukemia, or a mom forced to battle against breast cancer, an accident that leaves loved ones unable to live the life they've always known, it stops your heart. It stops your heart. It wrenches your entire world right off its axis when that happens. And many of you know that from your own personal experiences. Believe me, I know the feeling, and too many American families do as well. In that moment, the very last thing on your mind, the very last thing should be on your mind, is whether you can afford the treatment. The Affordable Care Act was created to put a stop to that inhumanity. It was created to ensure that families thrust into their worst nightmare of their lives could focus not on money, but on the fight that really matters. Obamacare is a law that every American should be proud of. It's why people with pre-existing conditions are protected in this country. It's a law that delivered vital coverage, as I said before, for 20 million Americans who did not have coverage. It's a law that reduced prescription drug price costs for nearly 12 million seniors. It's a law that saved lives and spared countless families from financial ruin. So this effort to bypass the will of the American people, the verdict of the courts in the past, the judgments of Congress, in my view, is simply cruel and needlessly divisive. Regardless of the outcome of this case, I promise you this: beginning on January 20th, the Vice President-elect Harris and I, we're going to do everything in our power to ease the burden of health care on you and your families. I promise you that. As I said, I will protect your health care like as with my own family. And we've been, unfortunately, significant consumers of health care. That starts by building on the Affordable Care Act, with the dramatic expansion of health care coverage and bold steps to lower health care costs. My transition team will soon be starting its work to flesh out the details so that we can hit the ground running, tackling costs, increasing access, lowering the price of prescription drugs. Families are reeling right now, particularly the reporters in this room and others listening. You've interviewed a lot of these people around the country as you've gone all over the world, all over the country, enduring illnesses, faced with risky choices, losing their employer plans in droves. Already 10 million have already lost their employer plans. They need a lifeline, and they need it now. They should have to hold their breath. They shouldn't be in that position, waiting to see if the Supreme Court is going to wrench away the peace of mind they've come to now rely on. So we're going to get right to work, I promise you, addressing the issues that families are talking about around their kitchen tables this morning, making sure that they can get in bed tonight with the peace of mind that they deserve, and fulfilling our moral obligation to ensure that here in America, healthcare is a right for all, not a privilege for a few. So come January, we're going to work quickly with the Congress to dramatically ramp up healthcare protections, get Americans universal coverage, lower healthcare costs as soon as humanly possible. That's the promise I make to you. We're going to fight for your family's health coverage the same way we fight for our own family's health coverage. We want every single American to know, if you're sick, if you're struggling, if you're worried about how you're going to get through the day, we will not abandon you. That is a promise. We'll not leave you to face these challenges alone. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through it together. And we're going to build a healthcare system that puts you and your families first, and that every American can be proud of. I want to thank you all for listening. May God bless you. May God keep you safe in this COVID environment, and may God protect our troops.
Okay. This is Politico. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. You just watched President-elect Joe Biden's speech about the Affordable Care Act as it enters Supreme Court hearings. So we're going to go back here. So we're going to get some music back on. Here we are. Welcome to the press room. This is Paul Politico, and we are going to talk about in just a second a little bit about the Affordable Care Act. So here we are. Here's my notes. These are the notes that I have right now. Oh, it's locked. That's why I can't change it. Come on. There we go. Alright. Alright. Cool. Just gonna make sure everybody can hear me, and then we'll get started. Alright. I want to turn it off. Okay, I want them to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Okay. We're just gonna keep going. So the first thing we want to go over is we want to go over the Democrat plan. What they're arguing about. Jesus Christ, I can't focus with this music. I want the music on, but I don't want to focus on it. What happens when we do this? Turns it off. Yeah. Alright, sorry about that. I'm trying to figure out how to make sure the music isn't obstructing me. I don't personally want to hear it. Yeah, I don't want to hear it, just so then I can focus. That did nothing. That was not what I wanted at all. Sorry. Alright, we're just gonna keep going. Great. I turned it down. Alright. Sorry about that, everybody. We're gonna go over the Democratic argument here. First we heard from Kamala Harris. Just as a little review here, the Supreme Court is hearing about the Affordable Care Act down in Texas. There was a lawsuit filed against the Affordable Care Act, and it's going to be heard by the conservative majority Supreme Court. Now, whether you think the Supreme Court is a political institution or not, we'll get to that later. So right now it's being heard by the Supreme Court, being sued by, brought up by basically 18 states as to whether the individual mandate is constitutional, and if not, should the law go bye-bye. Right. Then we have Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Then we have the argument we just saw from Kamala Harris and Joe Biden for their defense. Let's take a look at their defense right now. So the Democratic Party, which Joe Biden is the leader of the Democratic Party as he has become the president-elect, Democratic Party. Here's what they argue. They argue that if the Affordable Care Act is struck down, it will take away coverage for 20 million Americans, especially minorities, and they argue that it takes away coverage for those with pre-existing conditions. We'll talk about the Republican defense for pre-existing conditions because there's a lot to do with that. Something that the Democrats want to bring to argument is, will COVID-19 be a pre-existing condition? Something to ponder here. Is COVID-19 a pre-existing condition? What if you've had COVID-19? What if you haven't had COVID-19? Is it going to be like tough luck? Tough luck, you're going to die now? Is it going to be tough luck, you don't have any insurance? What if you were laid off from your job? If you were laid off from your job, like millions of Americans have been laid off from their job due to COVID, and they lost their employer-based health insurance. And what if they get COVID? Is the doctor gonna be like, well, you don't have insurance, I'm gonna have you pay out of pocket, and then you lose your house if you haven't already lost your house already? So clearly there is a overlap between issues, very real issues that we have with this healthcare system. The healthcare system is not perfect. The Affordable Care Act was something that has been a long time coming. Like I said, is COVID-19 a pre-existing condition? That is something that health insurance providers will have to find out. I don't know why I wrote this, so we're going to talk the mandate, the individual mandate, so we'll find that real quick. And we will talk about what the individual mandate is, because I'm sure that is very confusing to a lot of people. Let's see, it's been a point of contention about the individual mandate. Okay. So you see that real quick? I have to blow it up so you can see it. Okay, so right now let's take a look at the mandate so you can see that. Okay, so you're going to read the Affordable Care Act's mandate. This must be from a website that's a fan of the Affordable Care Act, and we're not looking at the website in terms of biasness, just to figure out the history of the act, which passed in 2012 by then President Barack Obama. So To read this, Obamacare's individual mandate required most Americans to obtain and maintain health insurance or an exemption each month or pay a tax penalty. This is very important because if you didn't have health insurance, you would have to pay an extra tax. Now you could see the argument that in itself is unconstitutional. It's sort of like unions. If you're in a union, you have to pay taxes. You have to pay taxes to be a part of the union, and you have to pay your dues. If you're not a part of the union, you might have to pay extra for the union, even if you're not in a union, unless you're in a right-to-work state. This is in a similar fashion. Is healthcare sort of like right to work? Because that's something that remains to be seen. However, the fee has been reduced to zero on a federal level starting in 2019 during the Trump administration, fourth year in Congress. So the individual mandate has your federal taxes right here. The fee has been reduced to zero on a federal level. So if you're paying federal taxes, you're not going to pay anything in the individual mandate. And also, states have their own mandate or fee for 2019 moving forward. So the national mandate is a federal requirement to get coverage or pay a fee created by the ACDA. It used to work like this. It doesn't work like this anymore. But this is what conservatives have argued about. And my camera just froze. That's fine. We'll just put it back up. I'm pretty sure the thing overheats, but we'll just keep going. The individual mandate went into effect at the beginning of 2014 and continued each year. Penalty for not having coverage is paid on your federal income tax returns for each full month you as in yes, you the audience, or a family member didn't have health insurance or an exemption, because you could have an exemption based on your employer. So we'll take a look at the exemption. Exemption 2014-2018. You just had these were tax exemptions. So yeah, this is a whole form. So you got covered during open enrollment. You went less than 3 months without coverage. So like, let's say you lost your healthcare coverage for like less than 3 months, then you would have been exempted. You wouldn't have to pay for 3 months just because you lost coverage for 3 months. And yeah. So okay. Yeah, if you could read that. But anyways, if that was the individual mandate is being argued to be unconstitutional because there's the argument to be made that you shouldn't have to pay taxes for a service that you won't use. Very fundamental argument in the United States about taxes. No taxation for representation. No taxation. I can't even pronounce it right. Taxation for representation. That's the best that I could come up with. Well, you have the argument being made that you shouldn't be taxed if you're not being represented. This is something that harkens way back to like the 1700s. Let's see. The mandate is, yeah. So right now, what the Republicans seem to be arguing is about this mandate owed in some states. So, and also this. You might still have to deal with the mandate fee when filing taxes for 2018, 2019. So, very interesting. So this fee, if you want to go over how much the fee actually was. The fee was 2016 for 2018 was $695 per adult and $347 per child. So and it capped to around this much. It capped to around this much per family. So if we want to calculate that real quick, I want to see what that does. So we're going to calculate that right now. Go back to the charts. Just a second. I want to calculate this because it's distinctive. It's a mandate that there have been arguments to be made that the mandate is unconstitutional, as I just stated. So we're going to calculate how much that could be. So this would have come into effect on your taxes. So there is a bit of concern as to whether that is a thing. So we're going to go back to charts. We're going to look up taxes. All right, so here we are. This is Paul Politico's Press Room. We're talking about the individual mandate for the Affordable Care Act. So let's say you're in 2016 election, 2016 year, and you have to pay the mandate and you have to pay your taxes for healthcare because you don't use it, right? So you have $695 per adult. Let's say you have a wife, so that's plus $695. It's even more. And then you want to, then you have to add a kid. Your kid doesn't have health insurance. Your kid is covered. You have one kid, one dad, mom, nuclear family, one kid, 4 kids. I mean 2 kids. So you have 347.50, 347.5 plus 347.5. How much is that? This is about this much. You pay over $2,885 for taxes, which is definitely an area of concern. Now, like I said earlier, you could have been exempted from this. You could also pay 2.5% of your household income above the tax return filing threshold, whichever is greater. So if that 2.5% of your household income is more, then you would pay that instead of this in your taxes. So, in terms of this giant amount right here, you would pay a 1/12 of it for each full month in which a family member went without coverage. So let's say that times 0.12, that's about $250 a month. That is quite a bit, especially in terms of working class families. That was quite a bit for not having government-based health insurance. So the mandate was reduced to 0 and federally for federal income tax. So now this doesn't exist, but this is the argument that they're trying to put forward for the against the Affordable Care Act. So here we go. Back to that, I just had to talk about what they are actually arguing about. They're actually arguing about the mandate here. And I don't need this keyboard right now. Okay, back to what I was saying earlier. Is COVID-19 a pre-existing condition? That's something that remains to be seen in hospitals. One of the concerns about this court case is if the mandate is struck down, should the law be struck down completely? Is the law itself unconstitutional because of this mandate being unconstitutional? Does it make the entire Affordable Care Act unconstitutional? That's something that remains to be seen. But the Democrats argue you have the court of law, you have the executive branch, you have the court of public opinion. Something to argue there is the court. Is the court of public opinion something valid? Is the court of public opinion valued in society? That's something that will have to be argued, but as of right now, 5 judges seem to agree that the law will stand, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So Joe Biden argues that the law was held up in court in 2012 and 2015. We can take a look there to verify that. And these are public polls up here that Joe Biden cited. 58%, 30% support the Affordable Care Act. I believe. I'm probably wrong. Democrats argue that healthcare is a human right. That healthcare is not a privilege. That healthcare... Here, we'll do this. It goes back to these 3 principles here. These 3 principles of life. Goes back to here. These 3 overarching principles: life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Democrats argue if you can't live the life that you were entitled to by living in the United States, then something needs to be changed. If you can't if you can't pursue happiness in terms of job security, if you can't pursue happiness as in finances, if you're financially ruined by the fact that you don't have health care, or you have a crippling condition that makes it hard to live your life, that they argue that healthcare is a way to help more people guarantee these 3 basic rights. The Republican Party does not argue this. They argue based off of freedom and based off the Constitution, and that's something that we can investigate at a later time. I just wanted to put that out there. This is what the Democrats are arguing. Joe Biden's arguing that healthcare costs will go up without care. Prescription prices will go up, according to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They argued especially for women's contraceptives, male contraceptives, places like Planned Parenthood. Prices will just go up for different things. Now, whether you agree with it or not, this is what would happen if the law struck down. If the law struck down, then you would see a big hole in the federal budget, which goes into people's pockets. So they can pay health insurers to receive medicine for any illnesses or pain that they are receiving. So like I said, the Affordable Care Act is an act that has been enshrined in law for about 9 years now. It would be interesting to see if the law was struck down. But like I said, Joe Biden wants to build on the Affordable Care Act, whether you believe that or not. That's what he says, and that's what he argues up here. That's what he argues, that he wants to build on the ACA. Now we have to talk about the senators. We have to talk about the Senate makeup. So right now we have this. If you want to get a bill passed, if you've watched Schoolhouse Rock, you need to have more senators on each side. So right now, this is the Senate makeup. Senate makeup right now, 48-48. Right now, there are 2 runoff seats, and we'll make them green, even though they're not the Green Party. Right now, you've got 2 runoffs in Georgia. So the Democratic Party is going to run really hard in the state of Georgia. We're going to draw that right here. Kind of looks like Missouri. Looks like that. That's GA. And yeah, there's a big old race going on January 10th. If you haven't registered to vote, register to vote in January. And yeah, I mean, it'll be an interesting election to see what happens. Right now, the Senate is tied with. We're gonna list who the majority leaders are for each caucus. You've got the legendary Turtle, Mitch McConnell, on the right. That's not how you spell his name. I'm sorry. And then on the left, you have Crying Chuck Schumer on the left. And Turtle Moscow Mitch McConnell on the right. So it'll be interesting to see who becomes majority or minority leader. 2 runoff seats in Georgia will determine that Senate makeup. If the Senate makeup decides to go right, I don't foresee any big changes to the Affordable Care Act. However, if the Senate is tied, I could see the tiebreaker making these decisions, especially if votes are split on party lines. If votes are split on party lines, the tiebreaker is the Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, and she would tie-break legislation concerning anything to do with Biden's administration, sort of like how Mike Pence did during the Trump era. So, very important election in Georgia. If you are a Democrat or a Republican, if you want to stop Joe Biden in his tracks, you need to make sure you're registered to vote in Georgia. And if you want to help Joe Biden move along, you have to make sure you participate in a special runoff election. Which, by the way, just to have, we'll talk about Biden's transition in just a minute. But I'm going to do a little shameless plug right here. There will be a special. We'll call this, I don't know, 120 minutes of some sort, featuring Wang Bang. As we go over election results in Georgia, so we'll call this the Georgia Special. So, very interesting to see how this election will turn out. Yeah, we'll just call it the Georgia Special. Sounds like an ice cream that I want to have. Yeah, the Georgia Special Report. So be sure to tune in to that. It's whenever the election is. So if it's before January. It's like before January 10th. So just stay tuned for that. They'll have me, and we'll have Wang Bang, and we'll go over who voted for what and things like that. So it's going to be a very special election, and I hope you all can join that. So we'll leave that up for just a few minutes. This will be a special coverage. Special coverage between Wang Bang and I, and we will discuss election stuff as it happens. So I'm going to delete this right now because lots of different things to talk about in terms of the political news and tech news. There's actually tech news going on. Yes, this is a political press room. Technology does affect politics. Believe it or not, I think it does. It's my press room. Excuse me. Don't want to talk about its transition yet. So what happens if the law falls? Like I just said, 100 million people will still have complications or effects from COVID-19, and we'll have to see if anything will replace that. But as of right now, we'll have to. I'm going to show you just some reports from CNN about something that John Roberts said. John Roberts is one of the people at the Supreme Court. So CNN. So lots of different stuff going on, actually. 4 defense officials were fired or resigned or replaced by Trump loyalists, but we don't know. I haven't heard about that. So we're going to hear takeaways from the Obamacare arguments. Take a look at this. Roberts and Kavanaugh seem okay with keeping the law intact. Kavanaugh was appointed... Oh, my camera froze. I don't want to hear that. Okay, we're back. Hi everybody, this is Politico. Welcome back to the press room. Roberts and Kavanaugh seem okay with keeping most of the Affordable Care Act intact. So John Roberts saved Obamacare in 2012, famously or infamously he called the mandate to buy health insurance a tax. And right now, the states that are suing are implying that this tax is unconstitutional. So something that will have to be investigated, but as of right now, John Roberts seems to be happy with keeping the Affordable Care Act in place. Okay. What was interesting was the GOP-controlled Congress zeroed out the penalty 3 years ago. So if look at this. This is why they're in court right now. Roberts gave the Trump administration an opening to come back to court. The tax is gone. The logic for keeping the law is gone. But are they going to agree with that logic this time? So far, it's hinted no. So if we take a look at Kavanaugh's statement, I'll read what Kavanaugh said. I'm not trying to ingest any bias. If you're against CNN, this right here is what these judges have literally said. These judges literally said during the hearings. That's what I'm reporting on, and I'm interpreting them the way I can. So Kavanaugh says, I tend to agree with you, John Roberts, on this very straightforward case for severability under our precedents mean that we would excise the mandate and leave the rest of the act in place, reading our severability precedents. So, yeah, this would be the ball game. Let's see. I'll read CNN. So right now it looks like majority of justices blah 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 blah. So this is what is interesting. The majority of justices right now have argued that perhaps Texas and the other GOP-led states that brought the challenge don't have standing to sue in the first place. And this is what Thomas and Kavanaugh said. This is Roberts. This is Roberts, and I'm going to read Roberts' statement on what he said. I assume that in most places there is no penalty for wearing a face mask or a mask during COVID, but there is some degree of, of opprobrium if one does not wear it in certain settings. Thomas asked California Solicitor General Michael Mongan, what if someone violates that command? Let's say it's in similar terms to the mandate here, but no penalty. Would they have standing to challenge the mandate to wear a mask? So this brings that question forward. Roberts appeared worried about opening the floodgates. You're letting somebody not injured by the provision that he's challenging sort of roam around through these 1,000 pages and pick out whichever ones he wants to attack. So, this is what Roberts told somebody. I think it's hard for you to argue that Congress intended the entire act to fall if the mandate was struck down when the same Congress that lowered the penalty to 0 did not even try to repeal the rest of the act. And there you have it. You know, I think frankly they wanted the court to do that, but that's not our job. It's not their job. So, yeah. Roberts also talked about the plane didn't crash, so let's talk about the plane. The plane that Roberts is talking about. Sorry about that. Hear music, and we want to hear music for our stream. Right now, we want to talk about the plane. What is the plane? Not the Biden transition. We'll talk about the Biden transition at some point, because right now the Biden transition's at a standstill. We'll talk about that at some point as things move forward a little bit, because I'm sure it's played to death on news networks. I don't feel like talking about it right now. I want to talk about other stuff. If you want to learn about the Biden transition and how that's going, read your local news. So right now, let's draw a plane. We're gonna draw a plane right now. This is ACA 1. This is the plane, right?
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Oh. No, Siri. I don't want to talk to you. This is the plane, right? So, here you go. Got a little fin. Got a wing. Alright. We're gonna make the wings bigger because it's a metaphor for stuff that John Roberts is saying. So we have the plane. Plane's got 2 wings. One wing is the individual mandate. The other wing, which is on the other side, right here. The other wing is the other taxes. The other taxes to keep the law afloat, which includes the Cadillac tax, I believe. Yeah, so we'll just check real quick just to verify stuff. Oh, okay. Okay, so what keeps the ACA afloat? Oh, is enrollment. So we have, like, this is not another wing. So other taxes, I'm going to call this a tax because millions of people are enrolled in this by 2020. Yeah, there's like millions of people enrolled in the Affordable Care Act. If they struck that down, that would be like you'd have 20 million people excised from health insurance. So there's already people. So these are all people who are paying mandates, taxes, for example. So these are people that are paying for the Affordable Care Act. You know, you pay into the system and you get coverage. That's what it comes down to. So these are the wings that supply the Affordable Care Act. And I guess the air that lifts it off the ground, so we're going to call it air. That keeps it off the ground is the fact that Congress upheld, that the Supreme Court upheld it in 2012 and 2015. And honestly, is likely going to hold it up in 2020. The Affordable Care Act, as far as I know, is here to stay. This plane is not going to leave the ground, and it's going to move forward. So if you wanted the Affordable Care Act to strike down, then I don't think that this is going to happen. I have full confidence that the Affordable Care Act is here to stay. Whether you like that or not, or you want to be replaced with a better system, President Trump has repeatedly promised to replace the Affordable Care Act with something more caring, something that covers all pre-existing conditions, etc., etc., etc. But so far, we have not seen a health plan that does this. There have been repeal bills. We can briefly talk about repeal bills. There was one in, I think they were in 2017. You have the skinny repeal. That's just referred to as a skinny one. And then you have the, oh, I gotta figure out what's it called again. ACA repeal. That was passed in the House. What's it called? Oh, ACA. Trying to find it. Where's the repeals? So, healthcare debate. Blah 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 blah. Where is it? Trying to find it. Where is it? Oh. Yes, the replacement proposals. So they're right here. I'll sell them right here real quick. See that. So House legislation, this is led by Paul Ryan in 2012. You have, this is that House. You know, it seems like forever ago when you have the House. The House was owned by Paul Ryan, but you know, here we are. Paul Ryan is retired at this point. And this was the American Health Care Act. This was a, yeah. Here we go. This is the more important one. It was passed in the House, but it was not passed in the Senate. So do you remember that ceremony when President Trump was out in the Rose Garden back in 2017 after repealing the Affordable Care Act back in 2017? It didn't pass. So, you want to know who voted against it? It was Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and John McCain. They voted against repealing the Affordable Care Act, and they joined with all Senate Democrats to oppose the bill. So, and then we eventually will talk about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, but that is another story for another day. But the point is, there have been bills to try and take the Affordable Care Act and replace it, but didn't work. Didn't pass. There's a lot of different arguments about it, but it never happened. And look how close the House vote was. This was a 217-213 vote in the House. And it didn't even pass the Senate, so Trump Care didn't pass. So, didn't pass. This bill doesn't matter. The only reason it matters is because it existed, and right now we have the Affordable Care Act still standing, and probably will stand at least for the next few years, depending on how it keeps going. So that is the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act is flying, and it will keep flying on the plane, as John Roberts described it. Oh, we don't want that extra gold mine. Okay, good. All right. So that is the Affordable Care Act, and I just wanted to go over that real quick because this just happened. Yeah. So I'm gonna take a quick commercial break. But in just a few minutes, we'll be back, and we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to talk about Biden versus Trump on transition. Very important stuff. And then I also want to talk about Apple's conference. Apple's news conference, because I haven't actually watched it yet. I don't know if you guys like Apple stuff, but they've revealed new MacBooks, and we'll take a brief look at that in just a few minutes. This is Paul Politico. You're watching this press room, and I will be right back, everybody. I'll be right back. Hi, everybody. This is Paul Politico. Welcome to the press room. We just had a nice little chat about the case of the Affordable Care Act, and we're going to move on to a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about the transition, how that's going, because there's a lot of different things to talk about there. But yeah. I don't want to talk too much about the transition process because right now, to put things into perspective, Biden is naming officials. There you go. Biden is naming officials into the cabinet. That's really loud. Jesus Christ. Okay. Okay. Right now, Biden is naming officials to be coronavirus task force per se, and right now Trump's team is debating as to Trump's team, which includes congressional Republicans, Senate Republicans, House Republicans, right now are refusing to basically concede the election to Joe Biden. Joe Biden has won the election. If we take a look at the results, these results, even if it is overturned in court, it's not going to affect too much. Let's take a look right here. You'll see this chart. This is the election results. This is what happened. This is 290 to 214. Even if there was a case of voter fraud, there would not be a valid case to be brought up. This is the election results. This is what's going to happen. Joe Biden has won the election closely with 290 to 214. This is what will stand in terms of results. Whether you like it or not, this is what has standed so far. If we look at Georgia's still counting stuff, but as you can see, the margins are big enough. Margins are big enough where a recount wouldn't change much, even if the accusations of voter fraud were to be found out. There's not enough for a recount. I mean, there is enough for a recount. There will be a recount in Georgia, by mistake, but there isn't going to be there isn't going to be anything super substantial in terms of that. So, in terms of that, yeah. There's not going to be a recount in Georgia. It's just not going to. Sorry, I can't think right now. There will be a recount in Georgia. Let me just make sure that's very clear. Recount in Georgia, but I don't think it's going to change very many votes. When the recounts happened in 2016, then challenger Hillary Rodham Clinton only got a few. That's a little better. Only got a couple thousand votes, which will not sway this election. This election is decided. It has been decided by the people, remarkably smoothly, depending on whatever party you look at. There have not been substantiated accusations of voter fraud, but I do want to show this. I want to show something that happened recently, and we're going to have to stop the music, and I will find this here, because I think this is pretty funny. No matter what side you're on, I think this is really funny. So, have you guys heard of Rudy Giuliani? Yeah, Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor. Rudy Giuliani, star of Borat. Okay. So we're going to look at Rudy Giuliani at the Four Seasons. Trying to find it. Let's see. Trying to find a... Okay, so to put this in a little bit of a context, Rudy Giuliani and his cohorts, they pulled up at a Four Seasons. They pulled up at a Four Seasons, and you'll see right here, this is the Four Seasons. They didn't pull up in the right location. They pulled up in the wrong Four Seasons. They were supposed to pull up in the Four Seasons Hotel, but they ended up outside. They ended up outside in a on a street corner, across the street from a porn store, and they ended up next door to a dispensary, I believe. So now, whether or not this voter fraud stuff is true, they have claims, they'll bring it to court, but I just think that's pretty funny. Let's be real. So I want to watch that just to hear what Trump's team is arguing. I just want to hear what Rudy Giuliani has to say. So without further ado, this is Politico. You're watching Rudy Giuliani with his team, and they're going to talk to reporters about voter fraud. Here we go. I hope
Wow, what a beautiful day. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So I'm here on behalf of the Trump campaign as an attorney for the president to describe to you the first part of a situation that is extremely troubling. First of all, for the state of Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and then for a number of other states. And these lawsuits will be brought starting on Monday. But the first time it was discovered was here in Pennsylvania just a couple of days ago. The people you see behind me are just a few of about, I'd say, 50 to 60 poll watchers who will all testify that they were uniformly, deprived of their right to inspect any single part of the mail-in ballots. As you know, from the very beginning, the mail-in ballots were a source of some degree of skepticism, if not a lot of skepticism, as being innately prone to fraud. The New York Times had written that 10 years ago under other circumstances, but of course changed their mind once it was a situation involving President Trump. Congresswoman Jordan, in her vast and compendious review of various forms of voter fraud, cited mail-in ballots as the most prone to fraud. With all that, you would have expected that be a high degree of security and a high degree of inspection that would be provided for mail-in ballots. Instead, in the wisdom of the officials, Democrat officials here in a city that's been Democrat for 60 years and has a very long history of voter fraud, documented history of voter fraud, instead of going to a high degree of care to allow inspections of the mail-in ballots, there was no inspection of a single mail-in ballot. Those mail-in ballots could have been for anybody. Those mail-in ballots could have been for anybody they wrote in. Those mail-in ballots could have been written the day before by the Democratic Party hacks that were all over the convention center. What I'm saying to you is not a single one was inspected, as the law required. Even when a court order was obtained to allow the Republican inspectors to get 6 feet closer, they moved the people counting the ballots 6 further feet away. It's really simple. If you have nothing to hide with these mail-in ballots, you allow inspection. I mean, this is common knowledge, common practice in the examination of absentee ballots, which happens all the time. Take out the absentee ballot, you open it up, the Republican looks at it, the Democrat looks at it. If nobody objects, you put it in the pot. If either objects, you put it aside. That's what's done for absentee ballots, which have the extra security of having signatures you can match. Here, it's a much more insecure method of voting. No Republican got a chance to look at that ballot. Some of the ballots you will see look suspicious. From very far away, they look like same pen, possibly same handwriting. We can't say that because we never got to see it. Now, you're also going to find that way across On the other side of the state, there is a similar situation in Pittsburgh involving 300,000 ballots that were uninspected, unreviewed, not observed by a single Republican. Not a single one. Got to be a pattern. As a friend of mine says, I don't believe in conspiracies, but I also don't believe in coincidences. Kind of funny that all Republicans were rejected here, and all Republicans were rejected in Pittsburgh, and it amounts to about, just about the 700,000 votes that President Trump was ahead by 2 days ago that disappeared. And we have no way of knowing, because we were deprived of the right to inspect, if a single one of those ballots is legitimate. That is unheard of, it's illegal, it's unconstitutional, and we will be bringing an action challenging that. And I emphasize to you, it's only one of the many other infirmities in this election. I know this city has a sad history of voter fraud. After all, Joe Frazier is still voting here. Kind of hard since he died 5 years ago, but Joe continues to vote. If I recall correctly, Joe was a Republican, so maybe I shouldn't complain. But we should go see if Joe is voting Republican or Democrat now from the grave. Also, Will Smith's father has voted here twice since he died. I don't know how he votes because his vote is secret. In Philadelphia, they keep the votes of dead people secret. At least that is something that you can be commended for. I'm not attacking the people of Philadelphia. I'm attacking a decrepit democratic machine, which has a lot of other reasons to be attacked. It's been around for 65 years. You keep electing the same people. The city gets no better. The crime goes way through the roof. The riots you have, the police stand by and watch it, not because of the police, because you have a mayor that lets them stand by and watch it. You got a district attorney who lets people go free. You are poorly served, ladies and gentlemen of Philadelphia. And then you got a political machine. Mayors who let riots take place, district attorneys who set criminals free. I don't think they're going to care much about ballot fraud. This is outrageous. In an enormously important contest with a very, very suspect method of voting, there was no security. Zero. The people of this city, people of this country, have no assurance at all that those ballots were actually cast. They would have to have been almost unanimously cast for Joe Biden in order to catch up. And let me have one or two of the people, let me emphasize, this is only 2 or 3 of about 50 people so far that have given us statements, affidavits, recordings. We're going to have many, many witnesses. It's not a small case. It can be a big case.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking.
Hi, Lester. Hi, Lester Holt. So, you just heard Giuliani talk about voter fraud, and I'm going to quickly go over that because I don't want to read too much into it because there's a lot of different stuff to cover right now in terms of election stuff. So let me finish writing this one note. Actually, you can see my note process real quick. So there we go. Here are my notes that I have. So, disappeared today's election. And let me finish this note real quick. Here we go. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I had to do that. Alright. So let's quickly go over the Republican defense of this voter fraud investigation against the battleground states of mostly Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. President Trump argued a few days ago that he easily won those states. He won those very easily, but won by a lot. If we look at his Twitter right now, let's look at his Twitter right now, actually. Oh, shoot. Let's look at his Twitter right now. Here, let's look at his Twitter right now. Let me find it. I'm trying to say... Here's one, I guess. So just to quickly show you the kind of stuff we're dealing with, let's look at this window real quick. This is President Trump's Twitter. You can see right here. People will not accept this rigged election. This is Scott Adams, creator of Dilbert. So that's creator of Dilbert. His Twitter. I'm trying to find it. I was in Philadelphia watching fraud happen. They shut down our poll watchers and observers. These hundreds of thousands of votes should not be allowed to corrupt politics. And Twitter has flagged this as this claim of election fraud is disputed. A lot of tweets from President Trump have been flagged about election fraud. So if we take a look at the main argument that I believe they're trying to take a look at is Rudy Giuliani argued that he doesn't believe in conspiracies, but there's coincidences versus conspiracy. Rudy Giuliani argued coincidences versus conspiracies, and you have a few coincidences about this election and a few conspiracies that have been risen up from this election, believe it or not. As far as we know, what I consider a conspiracy is something that has not been effectively put out into public by the court of law. Court of law needs to bring about these issues, and as of right now, these issues have not been put up in the court of law. They're not being tried right now. The Republican Party has filed lawsuits in a number of states to argue about the outcomes of this election. That's a little loud, sorry about that. Here we go. Let's start with coincidences. Coincidence is that Trump's lead did disappear during the days after this election. It was currently not known as to whether Joe Biden would win until the following Saturday. Isn't that odd? And that is pretty odd, but we'll get to that in just a minute. And there's also the coincidence that Trump lost a popular vote, yet he gained the second highest vote total of any sitting president. So even though he has lost the race to Vice President, President-elect Joe Biden, I've said it in my Discord, I'm going to call him President-elect Joe Biden. Anyways, President Trump, then at that time an incumbent, Trump gained the second highest vote total in history. Joe Biden was first. So I'm sure that is a thorn in President Trump's side. We'll have to see how he reacts to it. We haven't heard or seen him in a few days, so we'll just have to see how that continues to move forward. Now, these coincidences have led to different conspiracies, and I call them conspiracies because they have not been proven in a court of law. Whether you like it or not, whichever side you are on, these serious, actually really serious allegations need to be proven in a court of law. Even Fox News has contested that these cases need to be settled in the courts, and President Trump even said they will go to the Supreme Court, so we'll have to see how things unravel. But as of right now, I call them conspiracies because right now these are unfounded allegations, whether you like it or not. That's what they are right now. Whether they become real things, we'll have to see. I do think there are some things that could become real cases, but as of right now, these are unfounded allegations. So, moving onward. Conspiracy. Trump's lead disappeared during days after the election. Rudy Giuliani argued that the ballots for Trump disappeared. and that mail-in ballots had no security. People changed votes. People just wrote whoever in. There's a whole conspiracy that if a check mark wasn't filled properly in the ballot box, they were filled in by a Sharpie. This is a conspiracy that has been debunked by Philadelphia government. So this is the kind of stuff we're dealing with. And also, Giuliani remarked on the Democratic political machine. There's a lot to be said about the Democratic political machine as to whether it's corrupt or not. Whether you believe in that or not is up to you. I'm not going to comment about the Democratic political machine. However, Rudy Giuliani argues this time that this machine basically harvested ballots and created this false narrative that people decided to vote for Biden instead of Trump, which is something that, as of right now, there is no proof over. No matter what side you're on, this is going to have to be tried in a case of law, so we'll have to see. But I just wanted to quickly go over this stuff because this stuff affects Biden's transition. So if we go back to Biden's transition, Biden versus Trump on transition. Right now, oh, that's not what we wanted. Right now, okay. Right now, at this very moment, we're gonna write some stuff down real quick. So right now, Trump's team. I call Trump's team, which consists of advisors. They're in 3 tiers. We have advisors, we have House members, and then we have senators, including Moscow Mitch. Okay. Excuse me. And then we also have advisors, House, senators, and you have the departments, which is headed by leaders appointed by the departments, which is held up by leaders from the president. Oops. Oh boy, we have a low battery. This is fun. Which is then obtained from... I lost my train of thought. You have Trump's team, advisors, House, senators, and departments, which leaders are appointed by the president, and they are backed by federal workers. There are lots of federal workers in government, believe it or not. When we had those shutdowns a few years ago, a couple years ago, every shutdown affects federal workers. So if you think of the shutdowns to the government, you have to think of the federal workers that are involved. But anyways, right now, all of these people, most of these, pretty much all the advisors, all the departments, the House, and we'll put Moscow Mitch as most senators because he's the majority leader. They have refused to acknowledge Joe Biden's election victory. And this has led into problems with transitioning. A transition of power. Ugh. Oh my gosh, I apologize. Which has led into an interesting conundrum over the, not efficacy, over the transition of power, which is a tradition between presidents since as long as we can remember. As long as I can remember, anyway. So right now, Joe Biden is not receiving the daily briefing. He's not receiving office space, and he's not receiving funding to fund agencies for departments and cabinets forced by the appointed by the president. So right now, we'll have to see what happens with this development moving forward. I wanted to quickly go on to Trump on transition. Joe Biden has called Trump's transition an embarrassment. So we're not gonna watch that. We watched Joe Biden's speech already. We watched 2 speeches already. So Joe Biden's speech was Joe Biden has called President Trump's refusal to concede an embarrassment to the nation. President Trump has not really been seen for a few days. He's been out golfing. I don't know where he is. I haven't heard from him. I just know he's been tweeting for the last couple days, so I really they don't have whereabouts where he is. But as of right now, transition has been a thorn in Joe Biden's side, and it might be a thorn until December. Until December, when states ratify electoral college votes. So I'm going to put a star here. Stay tuned for that date as we see the electoral college ratify votes. That's what's going on. That's politics for you today. I believe that's the major news I wanted to go over with that. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and we are going to discuss Apple's press conference, because a lot of stuff happened there, and I think it's very interesting. As a both Windows and Apple user, I don't know if you see in my Discord, I have both types of machines, but very interesting architecture. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But anyways, this is Paul Politico. You're watching the Press Room, and we will be right back. So we'll see you in just a minute. Hey, this is Paul Politico. We've gone suitless because it's really frickin' warm outside. But in just a second, we're gonna put our suit back on and get right back into some tech news. We got some stream beats by Harris Heller. Some good shit. But we're gonna put our suit on. We'll be right back, everybody. Oh boy. There you go. Hi, everybody. Excuse me. This is Paul Politico, and you, right here, are watching, the Press Room. Right now, I want to take a detour off of, off of politics, and we're going to talk about Apple's news conference. I'm going to watch it together and we're going to react to it. Isn't that fun? Because this is not something that I've watched yet. I don't know what Apple stuff is going on, so we're going to find it real quick. So you'll have to pardon that. Had some politics stuff open. We're going to watch Apple's news conference. Oh, come on. I want to go to YouTube. Yeah, we watch everything off YouTube on this Press Room if we can. Yeah, you'll see a lot of stuff that I watch. I don't mind. But we're just going to find it real quick. Oh, wait. We're going to find the news conference. Alright, so this is about 48 minutes. I'm just going to react real time to this news conference, so this should be a great time. This is Paul Politico, and you're watching the Press Room as we take a look at Apple's new devices. So here we are. Sorry about that. There's a pause here, and we are going to watch this and react to this together. Because this is fun. I haven't watched this yet, so I definitely